Hello, Morgan. How are you today?
Good morning, Nicholas. Welcome to Friday, October 8th and the B2B Power Hour. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, and for those that don't normally tune in with us, we are here to go and talk to you, sales and marketing leaders, about the world the way it is right now and where we think it should be. And it's from all the other sales and marketing leaders that we're talking to, telling us the changes they're seeing, combined with our own experience to see where it's going, so that you can stay ahead and battle the way it's always been done.
The way it's always been done. If I had a superpower, that would be my arch nemesis. The way it's always been done.
Right?
Especially nowadays. Especially in 2021. The pandemic has changed so much. And I feel we continue to operate as if like nothing ever changed. And that's completely wrong. So I'm so excited for today's topic. How about you introduce it, Nick? What are we talking about today?
Well, I like how you brought up that not much has changed.
Mm.
How many people are still relying on email? How many people are still relying on the cold call? How many people are just starting to use paid ads? But unfortunately, we're past how those paid ads are being used. And so we're talking about the ramp up today. And what I'm seeing right now is so many companies are really struggling with lead gen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting put in this point where they're in a survival mode. And this survival mode is not allowing them to do good work. And people are saying, "Well, who cares?" Well, you
It's a
you
big
should,
deal.
because I'll explain it from a sales standpoint, and all you salespeople that are listening will really understand this. Is that why do a lot of salespeople get a bad rep? And you guys really need to listen to this, because this will make a lot of sense after I explain it. If you're starving, if you're struggling, and your life depends on a sale, or your life depends on closing a deal or sourcing opportunities, or I don't know, the honor and ego of supporting your family, you are operating in a state where you're in survival mode. And when you're operating out of survival mode, it is not our higher functioning. It's not us using our emotional intelligence. We're at the bottom of what's it called? The Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so if your company is struggling, you're not sure how you're going to make payroll, you don't have any pipeline that you have any predictable income over the next couple months, and you are just worried about keeping the lights on, and that's a lot of you guys.
Mm.
And I'm sorry to say this, but it is the worst place to operate from, because it doesn't allow you to show what you're really good at, because you'll make compromises. You'll go and open up your net to go and catch more opportunities that you should have never taken in the first place. And a lot of companies dig themselves a hole so deep that they'll never get out. So this episode is all about the ramp up and how to avoid that, so that you can get out of that slump, have consistent cash flow in the first 30, 60, 90 days, and in 6 months be set up so that you can operate at a higher level and be one of those, instant overnight successes that, it might take you a couple of years to go and find that product market fit. But that's why they take off, is they do these types of activities and they win. So, Mr. Morgan Smith, would you like to
Yes.
go and
Jump right
lead
in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, what I was thinking, if you're okay with this morning, is I wanted to take an approach from my background as a marketer and talk a little bit about what the first 30 to 60 days looks like from a marketing perspective. And then we could look at a sales perspective on your end. Is that agreeable? Shall we do it this way?
The question is, do you want me to be agreeable, or do you want to have some banter?
No. I'm just gonna jump in then. What I see, the reason that companies struggle with cash flow in the short term, and the reason that teams operate from this really short term perspective, is mostly because marketing is not delivering highly qualified opportunities. That is the problem at the end of the day. And mostly because I have great trust in a sales team in order to sell, and I'm sure you have some thoughts on that. But from a marketing perspective, like my job and the clients and teams that I work with is to help optimize that engine on the front end. And what do you want to do in order to accomplish that? Well, first off, you have to optimize your existing infrastructure. You have to deep dive into your analytics. What's working? What isn't working? Are you running by accident paid campaigns that target a larger geography than you intended to? Are you targeting firmographics that don't make sense out on LinkedIn? Are you running paid search ads when people aren't really searching for those keywords? Or alternatively, people are searching for those keywords, but not your ideal clients or your target audience are searching for those keywords. So really, I think the first upfront thing marketing needs to do in the short run as they're ramping up and in a new go-to-market strategy is to make sure all the existing infrastructure is actually working as intended. And the reason I say this is not that I don't have confidence in a marketing team already optimizing it. It's just I've worked with too many clients in the past that have accidentally had one campaign that targeted the whole United States, and they're putting $50 a day behind it or something ridiculous like that. Like the infrastructure is so important because the technology exists. We can use it, right? And we want to make sure that we're using it in the right ways. The other thing that sort of goes into optimization, I think, is a real understanding of how people use and interact with your website. And I don't think,
Jeez.
I know, I don't think you and I share the opinion. A website is not a silver bullet to your business or to your cash flow position. It's an important.
It changed. I have to say,
totally.
when me and you started talking, and we were even planning this out, like Newfangled was our like holy grail.
Yeah, they're great.
And they're great. Like their content is great.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually don't think, and I'm not discrediting them at all because I love what they do. But I'm actually thinking that websites are less and less important. And the more people are investing in it, the more they're playing Google's game. But I'll leave it there for you.
I think you're entirely spot on. Basically, the point of understanding how people use your website is to see how they're supposed to reach out to your company. So I think at a strategic level, if you have a new go-to-market strategy and you're trying to get new revenue in the next 60 to 90 days at a substantial and sustained level, you have to have a customer journey map laid out. And that customer journey map should take them from first interaction in all of your outbound or inbound mechanics all the way through the buying experience, whether that's digital, whether that's talking with your sales team, all the way through to purchase. If you don't have that laid out, you're not going to successfully generate cash at the level you want to or need to. So the desire for me at least, in auditing a website is to know how are your clients or prospects supposed to be reaching out to you? And if they're ending up on your website and poking around your blog and then they never reach out to you, it speaks to me that it's not designed in a way to get them to reach out to you. And so in that those changes can be made really quickly. You can do that in the first 30 days, Nick. You can change the way your user experience works on your website. That's not that difficult, and see how it works. And
I think you almost got to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the disconnect that I'm hearing is, why does it matter?
Totally. Okay.
So why do you need to go and do this?
The reason that I recommend this to clients that I work with is, and the reason that businesses generally need to do this is, you're going to invest X amount of dollars in marketing, right? Mm-hmm. Paid campaigns, anything else that you put out into the world. And you want to direct them somewhere. It doesn't have to be your website, to be frank, to the idea of a customer journey map. But most people are going to probably direct to some kind of website. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that all of the money that you're investing in all of your marketing is driving them to something that will actually help them convert. And in this sense, that was a dangerous use of the word convert.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
In this sense, analytics conversion, you're reaching a goal that they're actually reaching out to your company, or that it's fulfilling some part of your buying experience, right? So marketing needs to be supporting the sales function and is aligned with the sales function in this case. The reason that that's so important is, if you don't do that, you'll have a lot of traffic to your site and not a lot of people reaching out. And that's not a great scenario to be in. That's either a testament that you're targeting the wrong people and the wrong people are coming to your site, or the right people are coming to your site, but they don't know how to get in touch.
But this is why marketing gets a bad rep,
Yes.
because too much of marketing is based on the wrong metrics. A website is a phenomenal tool. Do not get me wrong. Coming from the sales side, I love a well done website. Why? Because it gives me leads that I should be talking to. The problem is people are working on outdated information. If you're so let's look at BANT. Budget authority needs timeline.
Mm-hmm.
We need to enable these buyers to buy without talking to me. If they need to talk to me from sales, marketing wasn't talking to sales to figure out what the customer needed to know, because this is what changes a marketing qualified lead, somebody that's coming out of your website and talking to you, from less than 20% close to well over 20% close. When people know an approximate price range and they know what their budget is, they know their timelines and how long it takes to deliver on this promise, they know the different use cases and best use cases for your product, it sets it all up.
Yep.
And when it comes to authority, I'm sorry, but that is the salesperson's job. And so you oh, you got to think of who your audience is. Are you talking to the champion and somebody that the salesperson can woo and build that credibility with them to have that meaningful conversation, or are you going to the buyer? Well, you got to be careful, because if you do not know your buyer well enough, they may not be the one doing the research, and you're shooting yourself in the foot. I've seen a couple podcasts that have been used to get lead gen, that they talk to a specific audience that loves them, but they don't buy.
Yep.
So you know what happened?
Mm.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So a good quality website is part of a good marketing plan, and it's also a good thing to track when you create resistance with your buyers strategically to weed them out, so that sales is only talking to the people that are ready, which does the buyer a service and respects their time and energy, not trying to play foolish games that piss them off.
Mm. Mm-hmm. This is interesting you bring that up. I know, right? Oh. Because the last thing I think from a marketing side that you need to do in your first 90 days, we just went through all the optimization stuff, right? The last thing you need to do is start developing an owned asset strategy. So, and what I mean, an owned asset strategy is a concept. It's not anything, it can look lots of different ways. In this world of audio that we now live in, TikTok's actually an audio platform. It's not really a video platform. And podcasts, and then all the video stuff too on YouTube and Insta and all the rest. There's a huge opportunity to leverage those networks in a way that generates interest and excitement out into the world. But importantly, you're targeting people, not businesses. And the mistake that I see people make when they, let's say, launch a new podcast, and you're a company that sells software to architects, let's say, okay? The mistake that I see people make is the podcast just becomes a promotional piece for their software. And so all the content comes out and it's all about how great they are, or how it solves the problems for the architects, or how these other architects solve these problems that you think these architects that you want to sell to have. And to me, that's a mistake.
Why?
Because you want to go and generate engagement and trust with people. And that means focusing on the bigger issues, on the things that they care about. Like, let me give you an example. There's an international PEO firm called Velocity Global. They're out of here in Denver. And their PEO is basically, if you want to grow internationally, you hire them to help handle all the HR and finances and taxes. They're sort of the middleman for international hiring. And they've had explosive growth, so great product, but they began launching a podcast called Forge Ahead, which actually has very little to do with international PEO. What it has to do is it goes about and inspires other business leaders about what it means to be a good leader, to handle complex processes in a growing company, to think about
They took it back
intercultural
to the
dialogue.
basics.
They took it back to
Practiced
the
the
basics.
basics, built
Eh,
their category, and
Yes.
expanded that knowledge base to build better customers.
Because most of the
Huh,
time,
sounds like
when
marketing.
you hire, I know, right? When you hire an international PEO company, that's like an HR decision. Some HR director is going to do it, and they well could have went after all the HR directors, and they could have made an HR podcast. That's fun for the HR people, not for me. But what they decided to do instead was they're more valuable and likely to buy prospects were the C-level suite, and especially the CEO, COO sort of position. And so they built content for those people and they built trust for those people. And at the end of the day, those CEOs and COOs don't want to spend in their spare time thinking about their business. They want to think about themselves. They want to think about leadership and personal development. And so this company is delivering that content to them. And the only way that you really figure that out, and this is something we talk about a lot, is you have to talk with your customers and not let, the world's burning. You have to
But I
talk
know
with
a
your
lot.
customers.
But don't I know already enough about them? Like, I read about them once. What more do
Oh
I
yeah,
need?
once, right. Uh-huh.
Salespeople talk about them. Do I need to talk to them?
You need to talk to your sales team, that's for sure. And this is, but like, let's talk about this. I think the danger in a growing B2B company is that a marketing guy or marketing person is not invited to sit down with prospects. That's the sales team's domain, right? Like, could you imagine being an SDR or a sales manager and you just learned the marketing director sat down with one of your prospects without like telling you? Like that, like that's crazy, right? And so there has to be
I'd be
obviously
impressed if they asked to come with me.
right. So
Big difference.
those that kind of communication is important, but from a marketing perspective, we make a lot of assumptions based on data and industry studies and our worldview, and a lot of the time those assumptions are wrong. And so those assumptions create an ideal client persona that we write content to, we create copy for, we design for, we run ads for. And if the assumptions that created those personas in the first place are wrong, then that content isn't going to resonate. So really understanding your client comes from actually knowing prospects and clients on a personal level and understanding what motivates them. So then you can actually deliver content like Velocity did for the CEOs and COOs that they like to sell to.
Well, I think we need to pause here
Mm-hmm.
just because this is such a critical point. The companies that I talk to that have sales issues are guessing. They do not know exactly who buys. They do not understand what the chain of command is. And it's so critical because going back to your point earlier, companies are made of people. And it sounds ridiculous to go and emphasize, but they are made of people. You need to know who those people are that reflect what you do. Who cares about you and what you do? Who cares about your topic, your category that you speak about? Because if you're not on their radar, if you're not showing up in the places that they're looking for information, if you are not earning trust in the places where they trust that information, you're done. Because what I'm seeing right now is that the discovery call is becoming the credibility call. And I heard this from someone else, and it just resonated so well with me because what I've been seeing is everybody keeps telling me how meetings are getting shorter and shorter. I call bullshit because it's actually going the other way. Salespeople and companies want shorter meetings, but they can't have shorter meetings because when you don't see somebody face to face, it changes the paradigm in which you earn their trust. And so it's taking longer to prove credibility, especially to the companies that aren't putting out information that is super, and I mean, I say super on purpose, super relevant, because too many companies are putting out half-assed content just to say they put out content, not realizing the three different places they need to focus. That's pre-transaction, transaction, and post-transaction. That content isn't actually nurturing to build a better customer. It's a promotional reel, an ad reel that
Mm-hmm.
has no addition to
Yeah.
customer. And there's different customers, and I think this is where ABM is becoming a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is by knowing who you're speaking to, you can do different targeted marketing. But the point is, for us to have a good conversation,
Mm.
you need to speak to something that's important to me.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing C-suite and senior leaders take more calls than ever before if you're credible and you can show that you deserve to sit at that table, because they are looking for solutions and they don't have time. But if you can invest 15, 30, up even, an hour or two with them, because you can go and shorten that process and provide value from the first call, and that's not selling product, that's knowledge, you win. And
Yes.
that conversation can happen asynchronously through marketing, through whether you're using apps like Vidyard and going and sending out videos as a salesperson, or you're leveraging YouTube, or
Hmm.
like what we're doing and looking at
Hmm.
LinkedIn. You'll learn a lot in the process. I can definitely say that me and Morgan, what we originally thought this was going to be is, maybe I'm speaking for both of
Right.
us and I shouldn't, but it's changed a lot and
Hmm.
it's super critical. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to pause there for you.
But I think you're hitting on something important, and I really want to emphasize this. This doesn't happen in 7 days. Like we're still talking about 30, 60, 90, 6 day timelines, 6 month timelines. I mean, you do not have to be perfect at this from the get-go. And likely your marketing team is still probably optimizing for the wrong metrics. And that's
Yeah.
going to take them 60 days to figure out something new, right? And that's okay. That's like part of the process. You need to have that time to do it right. But you don't want to wait 6 months to do this either. And so
No.
you part of a go-to-market process, as we've been talking about this morning, is getting all the what's the ducks in a row there. I was going to say something with sheep and I was like, that's not right. You need to get all of your ducks in a row in the first 60 to 90 days from your marketing side and from your sales side. And then you want to begin investing in the sorts of owned assets that are going to make a difference 12 to 18 months down the line. They may start making a difference 6 months down the line, but the payoff on some sort of podcast project, vidcast project, or I'm going to use an industry term. I rarely do this because I hate industry lingo. An
Okay.
omni-channel strategy around a book, where you take a book and then you splice up the book and then you take an excerpt and publish it out on Forbes, and then you do a podcast recording of another thing, and then you leverage it for interviews, and right, you're doing this basically multi-platform strategy around a large piece of content you put together. Whatever it is, that may have some short-term payoffs, but the likely payoff is on a longer term horizon. The problem is you can't wait. So it doesn't have to be grand at the beginning. Your go to market does not have to be the best podcast you've ever heard. You should probably spend that time understanding your audience and building content for them up front. So then in the long run, you're building better content for the right kinds of people that will buy from you. But otherwise, from a marketing perspective, and this is how I want to wrap up my section, and I'll turn it over to you for sales, was obviously you need to optimize. You need to make sure everything you're doing is actually generating high qualified opportunities instead of just leads,
Yeah.
names and emails, right? And you want to make sure that the customer journey is clear for somebody who's interacting with your brand from the first moment that they see an ad or they get a contact from a salesperson all the way through an eventual conversion. If those two things don't exist in your first 30 days, probably it's going to be really hard to right the ship as everything else begins going. And then in the 60 to 90 day window, start investing in an owned asset. Start rolling out kinds of content for the right kinds of people and spend the time actually getting to know the right kinds of people. That way, you're on the right foundation. There's a lot more to do in like a 12 to 18 month timeline, but from a go-to-market sense, in the first 6 months, like that's really where you want to hit it.
Do you want to do a quick summary?
Uh, did I not, or just like
You,
3 bullet points?
yeah, like bullet points. Sorry for the people, because it's always
So
nice to have bullet points.
one, optimize your existing infrastructure. 2, map your customer journey and make sure it's brand aligned. And 3, invest in an owned media asset.
Drop the mic. Boom.
Well, I can't drop this mic. It's too nice. But yes. So for sales, what do you think about in the first 6 months, especially now since sales has changed so much?
Getting them out of survival mode
Mm-hmm.
and building a qualified pipeline that's predictable. And it's hard. For anybody thinking that I'm going to give you an easy route out, I can give you a really good roadmap out, but you still got to put the work in. And this is where I'm seeing so many people struggle is they get on a really good track, and then they stop because they got initial traction and they stop. And then what happens is they had a couple early wins that got them started, got cash flow coming in. They stopped what they're doing. They dig themselves a hole in which they have 2 or 3 months of no income, no revenue coming in, and it kills all of this long-term strategy that we're talking about. And so part of doing good sales is financing growth. And so you have to be consistent with this process. And I think it's so critical before I dive into this to say, if you're not willing to do this for a minimum of 90 days consistently, just don't do it at all. You'll see results sooner, but you'll burn out your salespeople if you're not consistent, and you'll probably go and make everybody mad at you in the process. So, what salespeople need to start doing isn't just stop cold calling and cold emailing, but we need to be better at it. Customers, buyers in particular, and champions in the companies are demanding credible sources of information. There's too much information, and they need salespeople to be really highly focused on who they're talking to provide that information from the first contact. So I'm going to start with the assumption that you know who you're talking to. If you don't know your chain of command, who your internal champion is, who your buyers are, who you need to influence to make a decision, and also gather your information, that's where you need to start. Once you get past that, you need to get LinkedIn. If you're in a B2B environment and you're not using LinkedIn, you're shooting yourself in the foot and working too hard.
Totally.
Build a basic profile. Something I need to fix too, because after talking to LinkedIn, I figured out that profile pictures with you smiling win. You get about a 20 or 30% bump in connections. I don't. I took a different approach. Mine's also old, so
But
I just got to hit the gym a little bit, make sure that I'm good for when I go and take my next pictures.
You've got that blue steel, though. I like it.
It's funny. Everybody always says they like it. Then LinkedIn goes and says, yeah, but people that smile are more approachable.
I mean, so, I like the blue steel, but I get it. You want to be smiling on LinkedIn.
So if you guys are watching this, take a look and let me know what you think. Also, do a banner. That image that right behind your profile picture, most people look at that and your tagline, and that's how they decide to look at your profile. And it's usually all they need to look at in order to go and reach out to you. So in your tagline, they need to know what you do. And this is one of the hardest parts of LinkedIn is writing that tagline. I'm not going to dive into too much of that this time. If you guys would like us to go and dive into LinkedIn and how to set up your profile and like really optimize it for success so it is a lead engine in itself and a brand builder, please throw it in the comments and say, help me build my LinkedIn, and we'll do it for another show. But put your tagline, you build a summary that walks people through the process. It kind of looks like a website, but more personal. You got to add more personal bits in there so people know who you are. I think I actually accidentally took it out, but I get a lot of people that comment on me homebrewing. And so it's a fun conversation starter that leads into them asking what I do and usually leads them watching our content. So it's a good thing. Have a process for prospecting. Virtual prospecting shouldn't be a single approach, and it shouldn't be a single person. Too many people treat sales like the lottery. They go and hope and pray on one, and I mean pray as in P-R-E-Y, on one prospect, and they're stuck because that person might not mature, or they may not trust them fast enough to hit that sales cycle or meet that quarter's goals. And so you need, in companies, because they're filled with people, and depending on the size of company, you might have multiple decision makers and influencers. Know who those are and attack all of them. And that is, you should be commenting. You should be connecting with them first, and then you should be sending them an email. And when I mean email, I mean 2 or 3 sentences max. Start with something really high value and have a simple call to action. They don't know you. Are you interested in learning more? Are you open to a call? Do something soft to see if they're interested in it, because that allows them to have a conversation with you, because they might give you more information. And that is the point, is you're trying to spur a conversation. So, LinkedIn connection requests, send an email, make a phone call. Hey, I had sent you an email. Just wanted, I said, sent you an email with the whatever question. Are you open to discussing right now? And don't take what I'm saying verbatim. Own it. Figure out what works best for you. What's your style? But the point is, you're trying to inspire a conversation where you're learning more about this person. People work on two different avenues. They work from what's individually important to them. So, what are they being judged on in that company? The other side is, what is their goal? So, one of my favorite questions, and it happens later in the process, is roles and goals. Hey, I know it says marketing manager on your title. We all know that that role is used a little bit loosely to go and describe a lot of things, kind of like my role too. So,
Yeah, that's an understatement of the century.
right, one role that's the entire marketing department, and
It's
then
crazy.
underpaid, but we won't go there today.
That's another day. Yep.
That's another day. But what's your role, and what are your goals in the next 2 years? What are your main priorities in the next 6 months? The thing that is aggravating to everyone, and I cannot state this enough, is if you haven't earned the right to pitch, shut your mouth. You need to do some fact gathering. You need to go and provide value first. If you send somebody a LinkedIn connection and then pitch slap them right away with this ungodly pitch that has nothing to do because you've made an assumption, you're going to scorch the earth behind you. And it doesn't matter if that's email or a phone call. You need to inspire conversations first. And this is why a lot of salespeople are failing right now, because management is pushing them to move fast. Sales is not a fast process. It can be. And when you don't have a multifaceted approach where you're working on multiple leads, that is why we get in trouble. So the first 30 days is you pounding the pavement using, pounding the mouse and the keyboard
Yeah,
to
I
go
mean
and,
pavement, but yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
figuring out who you need to be talking to, building a list of about 100 lead or 100 accounts. I actually like to go in somewhere between 5 and 15 per month if I can, and stay really highly targeted. Because what I found is when you go and pick a few companies, somewhere around between 5 and 20, 5 or 15, you can be more focused and you get more done. And you also build a reputation where people recognize you, and it allows you to learn faster. So in that month, do that and you'll book meetings. The thing is, if you do this month by month, this compounds and rolls over to the next month. So it's not a one-time deal. This is where salespeople miss out on the opportunity, is they don't look at it a month by month. They only look at it week by week. So you should be sending 5 or 10 up to 20 connection requests a day, Monday through Friday. You should be commenting on 10 to 20 posts a day and getting on the top of their timeline, because top of timeline is top of mind. And so
And
the more, yeah,
in high value comments too. This is something you taught me a lot. It can't just be thanks, great post.
yeah, that's detrimental to your reputation, because people are like, man, this person, I don't know what they want from me, but they're just throwing fluffy crap my way. And
Yeah.
it actually frustrates people.
Hmm.
And
I know
there's
I
so,
get frustrated when I have a thanks, great post. It's like, well, what do I respond? I want to have a conversation with you. You
yeah,
liked it and said thanks. Okay, thank you, I guess. I'm not sure.
if you have nothing good to say, just like it
Hmm.
or do nothing at all. This is where this game becomes fun, is when you start adding real value. Morgan, what does it feel like when somebody leaves a really good comment or asks you a really high level question that respects your knowledge base and experience?
Oh, it's awesome. I want to engage with that person.
You're almost like, oh my God, somebody's taking an interest in me, or somebody gets it. Because right now, there's so much information out there and people are craving connection.
Hmm.
And so the whole point of virtual selling and this whole process is using digital communication channels to inspire conversation. This is sales. And so we need to almost become marketers and work with our marketing teams to look at if they're doing an ABM strategy, or if they're just pounding the pavement, trying to go and tackle leads in whatever fashion. You need to have a roadmap. You need to know who you're servicing and targeting, and you need to be consistent. And what I would highly recommend doing, what we're talking about here, all the stuff, I spend a lot of time in Slack, and I get a lot of really good questions from people that I get to answer, and it inspires our conversations on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go and track it in Excel or Google Sheets. Yes, I know it sucks because it's manual work. You don't need to explain it to me here. I get it because I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And all you do, and Morgan is too, so he can't even. I got the marketer doing it, so
I know.
you salespeople don't have an excuse. But all I do is I look at who I've connected with and the amount of conversations. And what I track is 5 meaningful conversations a day with new people. That's it. Because there's something about trust and credibility that those meaningful conversations earn that people don't consider. And then it opens the doors to bigger conversations later. And this is where you have to balance the company's needs and wanting to hit quarterly goals and your need and their need to build a relationship. And it's super critical with this whole process is it's a game of numbers. You have to talk to enough people to respect their own timelines, or you'll be just another salesperson trying to drag them to the finish line because you need them to get there.
Oh, that's such an important insight. I was in a strategy session the other day, and one of the, I do kitschy little things every once in a while. We had a skull where you could pull off his head and there's a brain inside, and the point of the exercise was to really get in their brain. And I think you said this in a couple ways today, which is, what are they looking for in the virtual selling environment, right? If I'm posting content in the hopes of getting attention from the people that I want to sell to or the people that I want to connect with, a valuable comment means a lot to me. Having engagement on my post is awesome. So providing that to them is fulfilling what they want in their brain. They say, oh, people are paying attention. Maybe more people will see it in the feed because they commented on it. That's awesome. And similarly to what you just brought up, how do they want to interact with salespeople? What is their worldview of the sales process for the industry that you're in, especially if you're selling software or some sort of product that they need to purchase from you? How do they want to interact with you? And just service that. I mean, that's the point of the marketing side too, of the owned media asset strategy. What do they want in their life? It's great that you sell what you sell, but at the end of the day, you're selling to people, not automatons or robots or process documents in some company. You're selling to people and they have motivations, emotional motivations that you can help match or interrupt depending, but usually match those expectations and serve them in the ways that they want to be served instead of running around saying, oh, well, here's my process and here's how I'm going to follow through with it. Well, if your process doesn't resonate with the people that you're trying to sell to, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And the same goes for marketing, of course. But since we're on sales, I'll stick with sales.
No, that was a really good summary. Thank you, Morgan. And I think it's really important for you guys to go in, if you're watching the recording, rewind and listen to what Morgan just said, because he just summarized. And if you listen how excited he was, it's about how we feel. It is about emotional intelligence and how we make others feel and how we navigate that process. And Morgan got excited because I get excited, and so do you, about that. And so all we're doing in sales and in marketing right now is navigating that environment to create those meaningful touch points. And it's super critical, but I don't see it enough. And this is why companies are struggling, is because they're taking a shotgun approach or like a machine gun approach, and they're not creating opportunities for meaningful connection and conversation, and they're losing. Because that's what people are craving the most in our COVID, face-to-face deprived world.
But to what you had talked about earlier, what I see in both marketing and sales is they're not incentivized to do that, right? Because as you said, conversations have a long-term payoff. Because the point of a conversation is to build trust, not to sell. And so building trust requires time. So if obviously time in this sense is not 12 years. Okay. Like it still can be 90 days. It still can be a 6 months. It
Even
doesn't have to
30
be super
days.
long. It could even be 30 days.
But
But
consistent, good effort, not
yes,
half-assed. It's like
yes.
going to the gym. Yes, you could say you showed up, but did you actually give it 100%?
Yep.
Or did you just put in, just enough effort to say you were there?
Right. And that's what's hard. It's that consistency week after week to keep on generously giving your time and conversations with the right people. You're not just talking with anyone, also. And this is what I liked about what you had brought up and what you've got me doing now as the marketer is we're really talking with um, people that we would like to know, people that we would like to maybe work with, and investing in those relationships. Because even if, let's say, there's 100 people on the list, and even if half of them we never work with, there's no way to know which half that is. And also, it's good to have those relationships, period. Right. And
You
this is
never know who they know.
you never know who they know. You never know what your content is going to reach, or you reshare something exciting from a colleague and there's some serendipitous connection. I've had crazy number of instances through my life in which there's just sort of a casual connection between two people who I thought were unrelated, and there was a magic moment, and I could have never predicted that. And so the way I see it from my perspective is it's just building trust. It's just building a relationship with someone and being willing to invest in that up front instead of trying to pitch slap people and sell. Well,
Did you want
sell,
to?
but
Did you want to go and tell everybody what we're doing?
you can. How about you? I've done announcements before. You should start.
Sure. So what me and Morgan are doing is Monday through Friday, we're connecting with 20 people strategically. So they work at companies that we want to work with, or they are people in roles that we want to get to know better. So there is absolutely no loss in being connected to them, and just opportunity for us to learn more, have better conversations, and ultimately it could lead to us doing better business. And then what we're doing on that is we're doing, how many comments a day are you doing?
I'm in the like 10 neighborhood. I kind of want to get higher though.
Me too. So I've been doing 5 because I just
Okay.
haven't had time lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to actually look at how to go and schedule it into my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying. I was looking to see if the wife was listening. I've been kind of wanting to do it at night because it seems like it's where the best conversations, personal conversations happen, where you just give them a really good, long,
Mm.
thoughtful comment, and then they respond because they're sitting there and they get this notification at night. But I'm for balance. I hate the hustle culture. So I'm
Yes.
going to tell you, if your wife's going to kill you,
Yeah.
maybe go and ask her if it's okay if you do like 15 minutes or half an hour. I would
Yeah.
recommend spreading out 15 or a half an hour throughout the day, so that way if you miss one, you're not stuck doing nothing. But I find that the golden number is once you do 10 consistently, 5 to 10 consistently over about, what do you think, 2 weeks,
Yeah, I think it's about 2 that
your
things start to move.
your profile views will skyrocket
Mm-hmm.
like crazy amounts. People start reaching out to you. And what me and Morgan do is when somebody connects with us, we just say thank you. We
Mm-hmm.
don't say thank you because we want anything. We say thank you because people that respond to thank you are open to conversation. The whole point is to create meaningful conversations. It's not to sell. So you almost got to pump the brakes so that they come to you, or you're educating them, or you're building that. It's always relationship first. And your sales managers will not give you permission to do this. Senior leadership will not give you permission to do this because it sounds like it's going to take too long.
Mm.
I'm telling you that's wrong. This is how people want to interact with salespeople and companies. Do it. Don't stop everything else you're doing. Just factor in about 10% of your day to start doing these on a regular basis. And what you'll notice is over 3 months, or a month to 3 months, there's going to be a line where the inbound leads actually take over the outbound leads because people start coming to you because they know that you're a credible source of information,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're someone they can trust and actually talk to, which is so critical. And so don't ask for permission, just start doing it. Don't stop what you're doing. So I would like to see you guys doing somewhere between 5 and 20 connection requests a day, highly targeted, not just anyone and everyone. And for anybody that's listening, I can give you free Sales Navigator for 2 months if you message me on LinkedIn and you've never had it before. So take advantage of that. Comment on a minimum of 5 per day, Monday through Friday, and post
Mm-hmm.
once you're comfortable consistently. I find the minimum is about 3 times a week. The max is just once a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
I've
all it
seen
seems to
people,
take.
and I've seen some people that have a big following do more. They're they're exceptions to the rule, and there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're personality based, and they're almost like they're a curator of highly relevant conversations or information. That's different than what I'm telling you guys to do.
Well, and they also have tens of thousands of followers, and chances are,
Yeah,
that's not the
most of them
case.
have a minimum of about 25
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn and other
Mm-hmm.
channels, or even more.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm telling you guys to do: be conversation first, build relationships, leverage the digital channels, and when they connect with you, say thank you. Stand out by asking really high level, meaningful questions that show you've done your research. Use video. Video is powerful. I don't find it as great for the first message, but after, just to do a face to the name, like, hey, this is me. This is my office. Welcome to my office. And just do something personal. Say thank you. It works.
Well, and I just want to loop back and reinforce something that actually you had mentioned last week, which was the cousin versus grandma analogy. And
I was
that's,
stuck with you, hey?
and just to summarize, but it's so applicable here. Just to summarize, would you rather go to somebody who's always excited to hear from you and not asking anything from you and just wants to spend time with you versus someone who always has an ask for you or somebody who always wants something from you? And if you can be the first, where you're just there to have a good conversation and you're generous enough with your time, I don't think people have super unrealistic expectations about what it means to connect with someone out on LinkedIn and what you can get out of it. But as long as you're generous with that, that's going to mean so much in the long run. And to your point about the relationship, is when they encounter a problem, perhaps even the problem that you help solve or your company helps solve, they're going to think of the person who might be able to help them, not the person who's going to try and sell them something. And that's such a crucial distinction in the sales process.
And it sets you apart from
Mm-hmm.
99.9%. If you're a sales manager listening to this, take this seriously because it works.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that when I'm consistent on this, this is where you book 15 to 30 meetings a month, but only if you're not just doing the outbound outreach. It has to be the whole full cycle where you're doing it over months. And this is where, if you get agents doing this for 90 days, not only will they have higher engagement, not only will they be more productive, but they will crush targets. And what they need from you is to tell them it's okay and support them on this journey. You will need to go and make sure they're not screwing around on LinkedIn, and you show them what good looks like and help them progress. And also, if you can help them with video assets and audio assets and make sure that their quality is high, it makes a huge difference. I bought a professional mic because I got feedback that people didn't care about the video, but they cared about the audio. Because when wearing headphones, when you're not using good audio, it loses because you're too focused on how crappy it sounds. Being able to add subtitles in, like using like the incredible app like Descript, just did a crazy update that is unreal, which you can also, now I found out, edit out bad audio, but that's a time, something for
Yeah.
another day.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a whole thing on video, but you guys need to be supportive of them. You need
Mm-hmm.
to make sure they're doing this properly. And if you do this and keep doing what you're doing, you will hit target. And stop focusing on stupid numbers. The reason why you're making 50 to 100 plus cold calls a day is because what you're doing is ineffective. The reason why you're sending so many emails a day, because what you're doing is ineffective. Even HubSpot just said that they've noticed a 30% decrease in open rates in the past. Can't remember if it was year or 2 years since COVID, because people have been inundated with information. You need to stand out. If you go and take the approach of a sniper versus somebody with a shotgun or a machine gun and really know who you're talking to and add value from the first touch, whether that's a really highly valuable comment or a personalized invitation, I've actually had people say thank you because they felt like it was refreshing. And that has actually moved down the pipeline. I know people will say it's not happening fast enough, and it never does. You this is a completely different approach. It takes time, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to respect the way it works. And ask Morgan. Like if you don't believe me, Morgan, has this opportunity created or has this LinkedIn strategy worked?
Oh yeah, totally. Yep. Tons of engagement, inbound inquiries, views, all the rest of it. But
And
sorry, finish your thought.
no, I was gonna say, and if you just keep going,
Mm-hmm.
because this has only been a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think it'll look like in 3 months?
Right. It's crazy.
And then if you're tracking it properly,
Mm-hmm.
that's the key, is slowing down to build those relationships and then doing it consistently over time so that it has a compounding effect. And the one thing I want to bring it back to marketing is, think of this like an investment. If you're checking your investment daily, and you're not, unless you're a day trader, you're doing it wrong. Running a business isn't like day trading. It's like running an investment portfolio. And your portfolio should have different investments at different time frames. Some should pay off in a month, some should pay off in 6, some should pay off in more. And you want to allocate your spending accordingly. And if you don't know where you're spending your money and what your return is, this is why companies get in trouble. Morgan, how much would you spend on marketing? If you had to give them a number, where would
Oh,
be a healthy place to start?
10% of gross.
So 10% of gross is something you should be spending on marketing. The stuff that we're talking about right now is free.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to really take this seriously. And this is why we said 6 months. If you take this sales approach that sounds a lot like marketing, because it is, because sales and marketing, you can't separate them. They need to go together. This is where you build that revenue engine, that growth engine, where people seek you out. And not only are you hitting your targets, but you might even be changing the way you're to a modern revenue organization and changing the way you spend and invest and the way you finance your future. And that is what is so critical from this. And then once you build this discipline and once you get better, then you can get Sales Navigator and it becomes faster.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can buy Vidyard or other tools to go and send videos to build. It just gets more effective, so you can do less, but you can spend more doing each of those touch points with a better success rate on conversations.
Yep.
So,
And what I wanted to touch on before we run out of time today, which isn't a huge focus of our conversation because we've covered a lot of ground, was what all of this sets you up for, how this enables your long-term success. And I think the most visible between leveraging a really powerful LinkedIn strategy, virtual selling, social selling, etc., and doing the work required to build relationships with the right people, as well as getting your marketing all optimized and set up, as we had discussed earlier, customer journey map together and sort of the wellspring or beginnings of some sort of owned asset, is you can begin to integrate these things together, right? The easiest tactic that this presents is if you have let's say it's a video vidcast, right? A video podcast.
yeah.
You talk about something useful. Your sales team hopefully is aware that that's happening. Then they can take a clip of it maybe or the whole thing and send it along to somebody that they connected with 2 weeks ago out on LinkedIn that they think this might be valuable for you. Hey, we put this together. Take a listen. What do you think? Or there could be a stronger ask out of that or a different ask out of that. Whatever the question is, you're now leveraging this content that you're creating elsewhere directly into the sales process. And that's just within the 3 to 6 month window, right? In the long run, the hope of all of this work together, well, the hope, let's say the plan of all of this work together, is that you're generating enough short-term cash from all of these activities that you can begin to finance real long-term growth. And what to me that means is beginning to rebalance the scales between the ratio of inbound and outbound. By 12 to 18 months down the road, the point of all this strategy is that a dominant majority, a super majority, is coming from all inbound activity, right? And to me, that means people are reaching out to your SDRs, to your sales managers on LinkedIn. They're visiting your website unprompted or from some sort of untrackable activity. Like they listened to your podcast from who was referred to a friend and they thought it was really insightful. So then they searched you on Google and came to your site. Your analytics are going to say you performed well on search, when in reality, it was your podcast that got you there. So in the long run, people are going to begin interacting with your company on an inbound level. And that allows you to shift your investments from what your sales team is doing, how they're operating, as well as what your marketing is doing and how they're operating. And now the structure of that in the long run becomes more aligned. It also becomes more seamless. And honestly, deep secret here, it becomes a lot less expensive.
Easier and cheaper.
Easier and cheaper, because the term that got thrown around, I'd say in the early 2010s a lot, and it's sometimes still used, is brand equity, right? It's this idea that your company has trust in the marketplace and visibility in the marketplace to a degree that people know about you and they trust you and they would buy from you. And that is obviously where you want to get to. And the consequence of having that sort of brand equity or visibility or trust in the marketplace is that the ratio of your pipeline is predominantly inbound, and that you have to do less and less and less over time of outbound work from the marketing side and from the sales side. And
that's the goal.
That's the goal. Yep.
Once you get over 50-50, this is where companies, if you talk to any company that has more than 10% growth, quarter to quarter or year over year, ask them about their lead mix. And I'm serious. Go ask.
Yep.
Every single company where I'm seeing they have crazy growth, and it's usually not just 10%, it's 25 plus, quarter over quarter, year over year, whichever, is that they are over 50% inbound. The best companies I'm seeing are somewhere between 70 and 80. It's usually closer to 70, but they have a very well-defined strategy. Marketing and sales you can't tell the difference. They are so well connected, and the communication between the two channels is so close, and the strategy is so well aligned. That's why they're winning. And service is also included in that because they're giving them feedback, because something that people don't normally consider is we are delivering on a promise. And when you make the wrong promises, you don't get referrals. This whole strategy is about being referable, word of mouth, where people are actually referring you. And so if they also tag in service, so service is giving them feedback on problems that are coming up. So is it something they should just tell them in a meeting before they sign the contract? Is it that they're saying the wrong timelines? What is going on? But I can't give you all these answers because these answers need to be defined during the process, and you'll learn as you go. And this is why this is compounding, and it becomes so effective because you're adjusting as you learn. But so many companies, they set it and forget it, like a website, and it doesn't work.
Or they try and automate everything away too, right? The technology now exists. Why don't we use this next shiny object? Well, it's not going to get you there.
Well, automation is great for an effective process.
Yeah.
It'll magnify it.
Yeah.
The problem is it'll also magnify a process that's not working.
Yep.
So technology shouldn't be your go-to. Technology is a powerful, powerful investment, but it needs to be used wisely. So, my friends, we're coming up on the hour. Oh, we're already there. So if you don't already, like, comment, and share.
Yeah.
And we would love to see your questions so we can go and provide you with the answers that you need to grow. And together, we can finally challenge the way it's always been done so you guys can get the results you deserve, to have the work that you actually want to do, and build companies that are going somewhere. So if that sounds so good to you guys, follow us, find us on LinkedIn, and let's hear these questions. And this is me signing off. Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate our therapy session, and I look
Thank you,
forward
Nick.
to our next one.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and I look forward to connecting with you all. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.